Math 13 students, we have a short video to introduce you to the basics of your TI-84 calculator. Follow me over to my screen and we'll take care of some of this detail. All right. All right, as I say, we've got a short presentation here, a little bit of an introduction and an outline. So we're going to introduce you to the basics of your TI-84 calculator. It is a required piece of equipment for this class. It's an important technology component that we'll use all semester long. We're going to explore some of the basic functionality, and we're going to focus on some of the statistical tools. We'll dive deep as we go through the semester. This is really a very basic introduction. So let me go ahead and point some of this stuff out. The landscape. First, the keyboard. Yeah, it's got all the keys on it. That's why we call it the keyboard. But I will note that there are multiple levels of functionality. Let me point out what I mean. Each one of the keys, or at least most of them, can do a couple of different things. We have something in white, we have something in blue, and we have something in green. If I want to access the keys that are in white, the basic keys, that's not hard to do. I'll just go ahead and hit whatever it is I need to hit, and we can take care of everything there. On the other hand, if I want to access the commands under the blue script, I am going to need something else. I'm going to need to hit the second key prior to the blue key I wish to work with. For example, if I wish to take a square root, I will hit the second key, followed by the square root, not the x squared, and now I can find the square root of 4. And there we go. So there's multiple levels of functionality. In particular, we have a key that is dedicated to this semester. That is the stat key. The stat key right here. Let me mention that. Your class has its own special key. That's pretty special. All right, so let me go ahead and clear my drawings and move on to the next little bit. The stat key itself. Most of the stuff we'll need this semester is going to live in or around that stat key. There's other keys to be sure, but that's really where the majority of functionality resides. I'm going to go through the stat key tab by tab. I'm going to start with the edit tab. So I come over here and I select the stat key. I'm going to get a bunch of stuff up here at the top. In particular, the edit key. The edit key gives me access to a couple of different commands. The one that I use almost exclusively over the course of the semester is the very first one, edit. This is where I go to input data. We'll go over the details when we actually need data input to happen. Right now, I just want to point out where that lives and what it does. The calc tab, that's the next one over. Your calc tab. If I select the calc tab, and I can get there using my left key, right key, arrow keys to move around my screen, I'll get a whole bunch of stuff. But here again, usually the thing I'll use pretty much all semester long is the very first option, the one variable stats. This is how I'll find things such as the mean, standard deviation, and the like. I'll use that a lot this semester. And again, we'll go over the detail when we need to. So let me clear my drawings. And get to the last tab, the test tab. That's where all the analytical tools that we use, or at least the vast majority of them, live. And there are lots and lots of them. So if I scroll over one more, I'll point out that we've got a whole bunch of things called tests. I can scroll through my list of options and it goes on and on and on. We use a lot of the test material. We use a lot of this interval material, which is really isn't clear what it does just yet. But here again, we're going to dive in as we go through the balance of the semester. So your calculator with the stat key really takes away a lot of the heavy lifting regarding the mathematics and really simplifies the process quite a bit. It also mirrors the process that you see in the real world. In the real world, people do statistics using technology. They don't do statistics using a pencil and paper, to be sure. All right, so let me jump back to my other screen. Stop the sharing. I'll ask that you make sure that you get yourself a TI-84 calculator. I believe our school will have a calculator loan program. I should have more detail for you. I may even have it by the time you see this video. Thank you and goodbye.